Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IS Academy. In this lecture, we will be discussing about the return of the dreaded means the one that is feared, and that is the Nipah virus. So the Nipah virus has returned. So what's the news all about? A recent outbreak it has been realized that a 42-year-old woman has been suffering from the Nipah virus again in Kerala, in Valanchery, in Malappuram district. Right, so she is presently in coma now. It has been detected. So this is considered as the 7th outbreak of the Nipah virus. So that's why it is in news. Now the thing is, it is estimated, everything about Nipah virus is estimated as far as the reservoir of the Nipah virus is concerned, how it is transmitted is concerned. However, there is still a huge amount of ambiguity with respect to its transmission, specifically with respect to its transmission from animals to humans. So let us have a discussion on all that. So what is Nipah virus? Of course, it's an infection. It is infection which is a newly emerging zoonosis. So zoonosis, basically the diseases, the viruses that are being transmitted from animals to human beings is what we are talking about. Now Nipah virus, it was first identified in 1998 during an outbreak in Malaysia. So it was identified in Malaysia. If you talk about India, in India, Kerala is sort of a hotspot for that virus. So all the outbreaks, even the present one, is from Kerala. Now, so this is what Nipah virus is. So what is the reservoir of Nipah virus? What do we mean by reservoir? Reservoir means where is it accumulated? Where is it stored? The main source of Nipah virus from where it is getting transmitted. So those are the fruit bats that act as natural hosts. Naturals on its own, naturally they are being hosting this Nipah virus. So what are these fruit bats? Known as Pteropus medius bats, that is the fruit bats. It is also known as the Indian flying fox. Now this is what is causing the virus, because it is the primary reservoir for the Nipah virus. Now what do we mean by primary? See, once they act as a reservoir, after them it can be transmitted through various things, to various other animals, fruits as well. But the primary natural reservoirs are the bats. So it is in them that it is concentratedly available. Afterwards, let's say the bat eats a fruit, right? It's a fruit bat, the bat eats a fruit. So because of their saliva, because of their urine on that particular fruit, the Nipah virus can then be transmitted. Why? Because the same fruit might be consumed by a human also, right? Half eaten food, we say the fruit that falls down on the ground is a ripe fruit, right? So many times the birds will also eat, many times these fruit bats will also eat. So what we do, we simply peel off that small part of area and eat the rest of the fruit. So that can also cause Nipah virus, because that Nipah virus could have transmitted via the saliva or the urine of the fruit bats who had eaten that particular fruit. So that is what is important, that don't eat the fruits that are fallen or are actually eaten by another animal. You don't know, it might probably be carrying the Nipah virus. So we'll see how those safety measures, what all safety measures we can take. Now when it comes to transmission, there is lack of clarity of transmission as to what are the ways in which it is getting transmitted. Yes, we know that the fruit bats are carrying the Nipah virus, but where are they getting it from? And from them, how it is getting transmitted to humans, because we are assuming, we are let's say extrapolating that through the half-eaten fruit, etc., etc. But then at times the patient will say that I have not eaten any fruit like that, or any half-eaten fruit or anything like that. Then where it is coming from, that we need to identify. And in the bats where it is coming from, all those analysis or identification are yet to be done. So if you look at the transmission, fruit bats are considered to be the natural host. So for now, this is our starting point. Now when further research happens, the starting point can differ also, but for now, this is the starting point. Now these are the natural hosts. Right. Now, before getting transmitted to humans, first through the bats, it can get transmitted to animals also, and then subsequently it can get transmitted to the humans. So, animal can eat something which was half eaten by the fruit bats. So, they will also eat, they will also acquire that virus, and then coming in contact with these animals can give virus to the humans as well. Or, so this is the animal route through which it is coming from the fruit bat, this is the plant route through which it is coming to the humans, right? So the fruit bat can eat or consume the fruit, and subsequently the same can be consumed by humans, thus humans also getting contracted with that virus. Now once human get contracted, now human also becomes a reservoir, not a natural or primary reservoir, but a secondary reservoir is what human is over here. And when other humans come in contact with this human being, they will also catch the Nipah virus. So this is the transmission cycle or chain of the Nipah virus, but we still don't know whether this is the case, there is any other case, or there is something more that is preceding the fruit bat. That is what the ambiguity is. Now as far as determining that transmission exactly, there is a huge amount of difficulty that is being faced. It is very difficult to determine precisely what the mode of transmission of the Nipah virus is, and there are a lot of challenges in front of it or uncertainty. Why? Because basically similar diseases including the COVID transmission, when it was being estimated, it made the similar challenges were faced during estimation of transmission of COVID as well. However, one thing to be understood here is, or probably it's more scary, is Nipah is more lethal than COVID, right? Now, what does this mean? This means that once contracted, the number of fatalities means deaths, the percentage of deaths would be higher than that in the case of COVID. So in the case of COVID, if out of 100 only one person was dying, in Nipah virus out of 100, at times almost 100 may die. Because a couple of decades back in around 2007, when five people were contracted with Nipah virus, all 5 died. Yes, of course, the sample set here is quite small, but of course it is very small. So we can say that it is not going to be exactly 100%, some may survive, yes, definitely, but the fatality of Nipah virus is surely high. Of course, it's not 100, that was one off case which the sample set was low, but definitely it is clear that the fatality or the lethalness of Nipah virus is more than the COVID itself. At the same time, there could be multiple modes of transmission, hence to identify it is a further challenge. Now coming on to progress that is being made in identifying the transmission. So there are few things that we have to consider with respect to identifying the transmission. So what has happened, there has been some researches going on in India plus outside as well. So as far as the Bangladesh research is concerned, the scientists have managed to isolate the Nipah virus in a date palm serum. So we are talking about fruits, right? Which fruit? Now there can be in other fruits as well, but they have isolated one particular date palm syrup, wherein, so this is the date palm syrup which we are talking about, wherein they have isolated this particular virus. So the first thing that we should take care of to ensure that from where we are drinking or having this date palm serum, right, that should not be contaminated. That is very important to understand. So this finding of course will help establish that consuming contaminated date palm serum is possible primary transmission pathway from bats to humans. That means what? Is it happening that the bats are eating mangoes and the mango is eaten by the humans? No. What has been identified so far is that the bats are contaminating the date palm syrup, and then that is contaminated one is drank by humans. That becomes the pathway of transmission of Nipah virus from bats to humans. So what is being done? So what is being done in India so far is the trained officials are visiting houses to cross check. If there are people who are contaminated, testings are happening to isolate that people and treat them so as to avoid fatalities and also to avoid the spread of that same virus. Now, in addition to that, joint outbreak investigation with the support of Animal Husbandry Department, because fruit bat is the primary source, but from the fruit bat that can be transmitted to other animals also, so other animals can also become carriers, as a result of which, in addition, along with the Animal Husbandry Department, the outbreak investigation is being made. The animals are also being tested. Now, generally the domesticated animals are being tested because it's difficult to isolate and test the wild animals. So as of now, the domesticated animals have been started to be tested by the government in order to understand the transmission. Right. So now for us it's very important, of course, from the point of view of examination, but also to remain safe. So we should know what are the symptoms. So symptoms of Nipah virus are sort of similar to the symptoms of dengue. That is why at times it is also difficult to identify. It will give you the symptoms of dengue and you might be treated for dengue, but when you don't get when you don't get cured, that's when you may realize that it is the Nipah virus. So that's when generally the Nipah virus test is done. So that may also lead to a delay because the symptoms are similar. Now the symptoms include fever, headache, drowsiness, disorientation, mental confusion, coma, and potentially death. This is not a symptom, basically this is the end consequences of it. I hope that's clear. Now, as far as treatment is concerned, see, for example, like COVID, there was not like a capsule that you are having COVID, so have this capsule, you will be all right. All you did is try to ensure that your immune system is boosted, your oxygen level is good, so on and so forth, had some zinc tablets, etc. to have good immune system, but no specific treatment. So same is the case over here. Primary treatment is intensive supportive care. Take care. Basically, you are treating the symptoms. Since you do not have a specific treatment, you just keep on treating the symptoms to remove those symptoms. Moving ahead, what you must do to stay safe: quarantine. If someone is contaminated or contracted the Nipah virus, they should isolate so that they do not spread to others. Wear masks and gloves, wash hands and fruit and everything thoroughly before consuming. So this is what you should do. Do not eat raw fruit and vegetables, especially if it is fallen, contaminated. Do not drink the date palm syrup as well. You can avoid, do not drink as in the contaminated one, at least should not be drank. At the same time, keep the mobility to the minimum. As that means the mobility, the cross-border traveling, etc. in places of hotspots of this particular virus. Now, as of now, in 2016, there was a huge outbreak. Now that magnanimity is not there right now, thankfully, and hopefully we will contain it soon. Thank you.